Hi, my name is Carol Smolensky. I'm the executive director of an organization called ECPAT USA, which has for 22 years worked on issues of child sex trafficking. Initially, we started in Asia when Asians identified that there were large numbers of kids being sold into the sex trade and that was unacceptable. And they reached out around the world and asked groups all over the world to join them in an international campaign to stop this from happening, which is when ECPAT USA got started. And what they said to us is that your men are coming to our countries to exploit our kids. You've got to do something about it. So first I heard of it too. And once you learn that kids are being sold into the sex trade, how do you do something else with your life? So that's what I've been doing for 22 years. Now, ECPAT USA is the US branch of this international campaign, which is now in 70 countries. The headquarters is in Thailand, and there has been an enormous progress over the last 22 years, which you don't see if you just learned about the issue the other day, because it is enormously complex, as Stuart said, and all of the speakers have talked about. Very complex, very ingrained, and that there is a cultural aspect to it, both in Asia, but also in the United States. So I don't want Americans to get off by saying, oh, well, they do that in other countries, when I'm very happy that Professor Marshall talked about the issue in the United States. But there's a lot going on. 22 years ago when we started, there was really no awareness at all about this issue. There were no laws against it, including in the United States. It wasn't until 2000 when the Trafficking Victims Protection Act was passed, and a few years earlier before that when laws were passed that allowed Americans to be prosecuted for having abused a kid in another country. There was no investigation. There were no shelters, and there are now. There were no travel companies doing anything about it, and there are now companies in the travel and tourism field. There's actually been enormous progress, and it's because of people rising up, people like you, and saying, well, this can't be. We just can't have this. How can this be? And especially when you learn it happens in your country, and you say, hey, I grew up in the United States. How can it be that our kids are being sold into the sex trade and nobody's doing anything about it? And so there's actually a movement, and there's a large number now of groups that are working on it. And I'm very grateful to Stuart for writing a popular book that is actually going to be very readable by lots more people than the academic books or the books written for leaders. We need those books too, but I'm really grateful for him doing this book for this audience because it's very exciting.